Welcome to Conversations with Conscious.Enterprises, where we are exploring the evolution of consciousness through business. I'm Roxana, and this conversation is a great example of how a person's passion can become their business. Rachelle Robinett is by far one of the most connected people to the plant world that I have ever met. Her understanding and obsession with herbs, diet, and how they affect the body is incomparable. She is a plant-based wellness practitioner, the founder of Supernatural Café, a company dedicated to real-world wellness. She's currently the resident herbalist at Cat Beauty in the West Village here in New York City. She is Integrative Health certified and Clinical Herbalism certified, and is the creator of some delightful new herbal supplements called Herbals that everyone should check out. She has also worked with brands such as Alchemist Kitchen, ABC Home, and the Elixir Bar at The Assemblage, to name a few. In this conversation, we discuss Rachelle's journey from Seattle to New York City to work in fashion and advertising before becoming an entrepreneur committed to creating accessibility to plant and herbal life. She gives us some fantastic tips and accessible advice on herbs we should all be integrating into our diets. We talk about plant medicines, and Rachelle even shares her experience with ayahuasca ceremonies. And she also shares valuable advice for entrepreneurs. Please enjoy and share this conversation and follow Conscious Enterprises on social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and you can always find us and all the useful links and resources at www.conscious.enterprises. Hi, Rachelle.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
For round two. This time the audio will be better, I promise. I'm so excited to talk to you because I feel like, you're such an expert in the plant world and herbalism and all of this, and I feel like society is in such a place where we are really craving it. We've technologically advanced so much where I feel like we are so far away from the plant world and understanding what our connection to Mother Nature and all these things that we're eating and applying to our skins and things like that are doing to us. So I'm excited to chat with you about that. So you are a plant-based wellness practitioner. You are the founder of Supernatural Café, which is located in the Womb Center in the Bowery, which I love. And Supernatural Café is a company you call dedicated to real-world wellness. We can talk about that in a little bit. You were also certified in complementary and integrative health, and also in clinical herbalism, which is pretty cool. So let's just start with, where did you start your career? Were you always an entrepreneurial, and how did you what was the trajectory to get to where you are today?
Yeah. I mean, the trajectory started on the farm that I grew up on, and it was really the aim then was get me off of this farm, get me to Manhattan.
Where was the farm?
It was in Washington State, in the Rainier Valley, and it was beautiful. Yeah. But as a kid, it's a lot of work and a bit isolated, and not a life that seems very well. For me, it didn't seem romantic, and was definitely not something that I wanted. So I kind of ran away from that environment and had my sights set on Manhattan and the fashion industry, and worked my ass off to get here and to do that. But I was sort of imbued with these learnings and these relationships with nature and with quiet and with plants and with medicines and with food, because of growing up in that, steeped in that, and then because my parents were in medicine in sort of Eastern and Western, and not necessarily Eastern, but my mom's a dietitian and has a lot of alternative practices and sort of an appreciation and an openness for that. And then my father is an anesthesiologist, a retired anesthesiologist, so very Western. and just learned a lot really early about and got a sort of close relationship with how does our body work, how does what we take in affect our experience of the world. And I was always fascinated by that, and also on a sort of spiritual quest that became one and the same, and we'll get to that later, I'm sure. But so that was very ingrained in me, and so even though I was here working in fashion and living a completely different lifestyle than, you know, what I had grown up in, I was on the side still practicing nutrition and studying the science of plant chemicals and traveling to really remote places to be with healers or yogis or, you know, people who were doing things that I was just sort of fascinated with and treated as a personal practice. But enough people started to glimpse what I was doing or what I was drinking or eating and asking, what is that you're always carrying around in that Tupperware or that like sauerkraut jar, and where did you just go, and like what did you just do? They started to ask, and they asked me to teach them or to start to take them on as kind of clients. And when there was a request for me to share, when there were enough of those, I started to share, and I started to do it as I started to write about the things that I was studying or learning or had experienced or
and
had
this was
developed.
on the side while you still had a full-time job in New York.
Very much so, yeah. I think there were several years where I had 3 jobs. I was working full-time, I was moonlighting because I was preparing to transition, and then I was also starting my company at, you know, the wee hours before and after the sun was up. But really when there was that demand, I started to serve it, and long story short, that is when my company launched. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
What was in the Tupperware that you were carrying around?
Always the strangest things. I mean, I always prepare my own food. Like my whole life. So
I like doing that too when I can.
Yeah. So every day, you know, in the agencies or wherever we were, like I'd pull out my lunch and, you know, some mixture of veggies and blended things.
I can only imagine, like, whipping that out.
It never smells good. I've gotten teased about it my whole life. I've had horrible comments from bosses and, like, you know, friends and whatever. Just like, that's
so
broccoli.
And you worked in marketing, right? Marketing agencies mostly for fashion?
Right? So marketing and strategy, we're doing branding and campaigns and shows and all sorts
and you worked for Michael Ventura too.
I did,
yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, less fashion with him, but still agency.
In that vein. Cool. And how did the relationship with plants, I guess, was it that you were trying to become entrepreneurial and start your own business, or was it just this love for plants, you think, that just kind of emerged and made the business side come to fruition?
I never purposely pursued entrepreneurship. And I didn't, I'm maybe only now kind of thinking of myself as that. It wasn't something that was, you know, in the forefront of mind for me. Plants revealed themselves as the through line in all of my work, which came fairly late. So it felt like I was pursuing a sort of, you could call it spirituality, a sort of fascination with nutrition and nutritional science and herbalism, almost separately. And there was a point where plant medicine, plant-based diet, and herbs, which are also just, you know, plants, it just sort of converged all of that, and it was very clear that that was the bottom line for me, and that it had always been the bottom line, and that it was looking to be, you know, I have no idea what will happen in the future, but you know, it was the through line, and that just kind of synced everything and gave me a really nice anchor. So
that's interesting how that happens sometimes, where everything that you're interested in kind of all melts together. Where were you in your life? Like, was that while you're still working in the corporate world when that all kind of converged, or was it kind of afterwards?
It was probably when I was still doing several things. Because I was on retreat in Peru, experiencing plant medicines.
Cool.
And that, I feel like it was probably around that time when it just like, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Obviously they had been they had always been the same thing. I just
Right.
didn't see it that way.
Yeah. You're
So-
studying them in such, I guess, detail for each category that it seems different when you do it that way.
Yeah.
So interesting. So I love that you've become this kind of go-to resource for a lot of these wellness kind of brands looking to integrate herbalism, like the Alchemist Kitchen at ABC Home, which I love that space. It's so gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
The Elixir Bar at The Assemblage, which I go to a lot. What kind of herbalism or plant-based work do you do for brands and companies now?
So now I'll do, it's sort of split. Some of the work that I do and more of the work that I have done is in the marketing, brand building, business development, strategy and positioning sort of side of things, and that comes from my experience working in agencies, working with global fashion brands, and being able to apply that to a brand that just happens to be in the wellness industry.
Right.
So it's really just sort of straightforward business advice. And then now I'm also doing more and more in recent years menu development, product development, recipe development, things that are more specific to what I'm doing now as opposed to what I used to do. And I do still, I'm still obviously marketing my own company,
Right.
and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's one or the other. Typically, it can be building the brand and the business, or something maybe a little more internal, like developing a menu.
Yeah, that must be super fun to
It's
make
so
menus
fun.
from herbs and all
It's so
that.
If anybody needs that, I love doing it.
I'm like thinking of a way that I can ask you to do that for me, but I have no
Anytime.
application, but I will find one.
Yeah, I love it.
What kind of improvements are you teaching them to make, I guess, as a company by learning about these plants and these herbs and things like that?
I think that's a good question. I think what I tend to bring is some of the same that I bring to clients and my own business, and that is, trying to work with plants that are effective, that are as environmentally gentle as possible while still being effective, and then trying to encourage a quality and a sincerity over a trendiness. So to make that really simple, there are so many different herbs that can help us relax,
Right.
and that can help us deal with stress and anxiety and sleeplessness and whatever it is. And there are the super trendy, really popular ones, and the way to talk about those. And then there are hundreds of others that are like growing,
Right.
in our backyard and are super common and that we can be using that may be even more effective than the ones that just happen to be really popular. So if I can put people, into that sort of vein, then that's where I feel good. And also keeping it accessible,
Right.
from a price point and standpoint and from a messaging standpoint.
What are some of those herbs that are in our backyard you think that are not getting the attention that they need for stress and anxiety is a big one,
All the herbs that I just put in the product I launched last week.
Yes, I saw that you posted something. We want to, let's talk about that too.
Oh my gosh. So, a huge one is like lavender.
Okay.
Lavender is a fantastic herb. And actually one of my good friends who's worked with plants for a lot of her life and even treated her own cancer naturally, made a comment that lavender could rival CBD.
Really?
If it caught on, which I don't think it will.
Yeah.
It may, I hope so, but I doubt it will. CBD's like, a rocket ship.
Right, yeah.
And that's fine because cannabis is actually, that plant is not one that we're worried about from a harvesting standpoint at this point. But lavender is a great example. Oat tops is another one that's great for nervous system and sort of daytime nourishing, calming, balancing, emotionally recovering benefits, and that's often a cover crop. So they're just, growing it in between other crops that we're farming for food or something else. And mowing down is super, super common. A lot of times goes to waste. Red clover, not specific for nervous system, but very, very common, grows wild. And the list just goes on and on.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Those are some good tidbits to have.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you deal with a lot of ups and downs, as we all do. Those are always lots of fun to navigate. What is one of your failures that you're most proud of, and what did you learn or gain from it?
That's a good one. It's always hard for me to answer this question because I don't feel like I haven't failed, because I surely have. But I have a hard time viewing it as that, as a failure.
Yeah.
In the same way that I think it's hard to sort of pinpoint a regret. Like
Right.
it's like it's all, everything that's happened has led to here and now.
Right.
And here and now isn't perfect.
Yeah.
But if I saw something as a failure, I feel like I would be sort of discrediting its contribution to my being here today.
Yeah.
So
wow, such an enlightened answer.
So I would say, I can't pinpoint a certain failure, but I would say that they happen all the time, or these sort of disappointments or shortcomings or things. It's more that things don't come to fruition, and that happens all the time.
Right.
And I think that's why, an approach that I take is to plant lots and lots of seeds, and to know that they won't all come to fruition, and to just let it go and let it flow and keep moving, and just it's okay. We can't rest in that sort of disappointment. And maybe that's a privileged answer, because things have been really great, but the things that have been hard, I just try to let it go, and learn from it and keep moving. And then, I don't know, I guess just as a piece of advice, one thing that has become really a new sort of challenge and practice for me since being entrepreneurial is because the work is all one now. It's my life, it's my love, it's my passion, it's what I want to do in my free time. It's also, what I do all the time for work. So there's no work-life balance lines.
Yes.
There's no, this is work and this is play. And I have to be very, very careful about not overworking, because I will definitely do that.
Yeah.
And have done that. And so my practice now is really actually trying to do less. Not less, output, but actually take time to do nothing, or to listen to nothing, or to just stop and be. And I think, that's a little bit of a tangent, but that can become, I do. And that can become a failure, because if we can't stop, well, at least for me, if I can't stop at some point, then we burn ourselves out.
Right.
And then bad things can happen.
Totally. I think it's a very common entrepreneurial dilemma when because you get so excited when you find something you're so passionate about, and you're fortunate enough to make a business out of it and make it, you're living kind of your life's purpose in that way. And those lines get blurred, and I think that's great advice to schedule in that time. I think it's really important. Why do you consider your business a conscious enterprise? What higher purpose are you serving for the world?
I mean, I'm trying to help people be healthier. Trying to help people understand what that means, to understand what that feels like, to have that experience. I was actually having dinner with a client last night. He's been one of my longest term clients, and he was describing how we found the 1%, so he, instead of feeling poor all of the time, we're able to find 1% of the time where he could feel great, and then we start there and we just grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. And if I can give people an experience of 1% of the time, or 10% of the time, or 50% of the time, or whatever, where they feel what it's like to be in balance and healthy and happy in those things, that is a sort of a gift and a tool and an understanding that I hope, and I've seen it just change people's lives. So that's what I'm trying to do for them, make it possible.
Yeah, that's a great mission. World definitely needs it. And back to actually those herbals that you just created. How do you see those contributing towards this purpose that you're serving? Yeah, I'm excited about them. I need to get some from you. Yeah.
So those, they really they sum up so many of the things that I mentioned. So
Yeah.
they're herbs that are accessible, common, really effective, not super trendy, not super expensive, not, you know, coming from the Amazon.
Right.
And the first Herbals SKU is nerveless, and that's for stress and anxiety, because that's what I hear all day long.
Yes.
We need help with stress and anxiety. And they're in a format that I think is the most basic for us to be able to consume things, which is eating. They're edibles,
Right.
you know. I watch people with powders and tinctures and all these different forms that we can take herbs in, and a lot of them are being adopted, but there's still a sort of a ceiling where it's too complicated, I don't understand it, I don't know the recipe to put the things in, I'm tired of trying to put them in a smoothie every day, you know, and when it's like you eat it, then, you know, I think the sky's the limit in terms of the scale of adoption and the understandability of something like that.
Yeah.
And
And they're basically like a gummy format, right?
Yeah.
It looks like a gummy candy.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're vegetarian. There's no gelatin, and that's the other
Great.
thing, that sort of market has exploded recently. I've been watching it since I've been developing these. But every time I pick up a package of natural candy, I mean, they're at Whole Foods, they're everywhere. Read the ingredients in those things, and they're gross.
It's
It's
so
still
true.
processed sugar. It's still colors. It's still gelatin. And I'm like, why?
Totally.
We have all these ingredients. Like working with a chef, we had all these different directions we could have gone.
Yeah.
None of them required gelatin.
Really?
None of them required processed
What
sugar.
is the holdup then? I don't get it. That's so
It's
interesting.
probably just easier and cheaper. you know?
Yeah.
And
That's
I don't
so
know.
interesting.
But
It's
it
a
tastes
totally-
good, and they're like, yeah.
And so they're available on your website? Is that where people
Yeah.
can get them? Okay, I'll link to it. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so you worked with a chef to create the recipe and all of that?
Yes.
That's so fun.
Yes.
How
So-
long did it take you?
It took us a few months.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't too long. I've been sort of waiting for, so like as Supernatural as a company has been growing,
Yeah.
I've been waiting for a sort of product to come to mind or to reveal itself that made sense. And I didn't have anything for years, and that was okay. I was just like, maybe there won't ever be one.
Yeah.
But then I sort of saw this white space, and you know, it came to mind, and I felt like it was all the things that I care about. It's a food, it's
Yeah.
herbal, it's, you know, herbal, it's accessible, it's all those things. It's also fun, you know,
Right.
like Supernatural. I mean, we're trying to have a good time with it too.
Totally.
So,
It's
like,
the best name ever. I think it's so cute. Yeah.
So the herbs are supposed to make you know, consuming herbs and a snack type food accessible for people.
Awesome.
So.
Kiwi squeaker. Don't mind her. Look great. Of course she grabs the squeakiest toy while I'm recording.
I love it.
And never touches it otherwise. Shifting gears here. Actually, no. Let's. What are the 3 most recommended herbs that you think people could benefit from taking today? I mean, it sounds like you created something with most of them. Is it giving away the secret sauce if you tell us what's in it, or?
No, and I think I would say something like lavender, so like a nervine herb for our nervous system to help us deal with stress and anxiety. And a lot of people are going to adaptogens for that right now, and that's fine. Adaptogens are strong. Generally, they're meant to help us get through particularly rough patches in life, and then we can revert to something that is a more preventative, nourishing, kind of longer term.
Interesting. So adaptogens shouldn't be taken long term.
Most of them, no.
Interesting. Okay.
It depends on what you're using. There's very specific dosing instructions for each one, and you know, a clear exception to that rule is ashwagandha, which you can take long term and you should take every day. So I think something for stress and anxiety support is important. We have to remember that that's treating the symptom, though.
Right.
And a lot of people are starting there, which is good. We have to keep going, and we have to address: is it my lifestyle balance? Is it my emotional reaction to the stressful, you know, situation or environment? Is my diet not helping me? Do I need more exercise? Do I need better sleep? Like, what else to help mitigate that stress? And I 100% recommend more greens for everyone.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, call that an herb. I mean, that's where the herbs and the plants for me just become one conversation. And it's like that, that as part of a plant-based diet or not, you know, we generally all need more of that, and good things come from more veggies.
What's your favorite green to eat? What to recommend to people?
I mean, it's so so cliche, but kale's pretty great.
Yeah.
You know, I really recommend the cruciferous if you can do it.
Yeah.
Something that's more dense than like arugula or spinach or something like that. Like really go in on a hearty dark green or dark purple vegetable that you can have either raw or like lightly steamed and like every day. You know, greens every single day. I eat greens like 3 times a day.
Totally.
I think that's really important. And then it sort of depends. Like if you would say something relaxing is one, and like more veggies is 2. Maybe I would say something that is a prebiotic herb or plant. So that's a type of fiber that's good for our microbiome. So
to support all the probiotics in
exactly.
there. What are some examples of prebiotics?
It's in a food form, which is generally how I recommend people get it. Yucca, cassava, Jerusalem artichokes, leeks, lots of fibrous veggie starches.
Starches, okay, that's good to know.
And then in herb form, the roots. So burdock root, dandelion root, ashwagandha, elecampane, marshmallow root, those which you usually get in like a powder form.
Yeah, I do marshmallow
mushrooms actually.
Oh, really?
Mushrooms, yeah, they're starchy, so they're a good source of prebiotics.
Good to know.
That's that's a trend that's coming up fast.
The mushrooms?
The prebiotics.
Oh, prebiotics. Yes, I've been adding a lot more of those into my smoothie when I do it. Yeah. I'm gonna shift gears here. For a little bit of a hot topic.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on psychedelic plant medicines? It sounds like you've gone on a retreat in Peru, so I'm assuming that you may have partaken in some plant ceremonies. How does that fit into this kind of nutritional world? Like, what are their uses from your perspective? You know, what are things people should be careful of? What's been your experience?
I'm a long time fan of the use of psychedelics as therapeutic plant medicines, and I really hope that MAPS and that organization and related organizations are able to get. Primarily they're working for MDMA and psilocybin, but to be able to get that into the hands of therapists who can really use it in the right setting with the right people. I don't think everyone needs psychedelics, and I think this, depending on the camp that you're sort of hanging out in, it might feel like everyone should have an encounter with psychedelic plants, and generally it tends to be a really good thing for people.
Right.
But you need to be ready, you need to really want it for the right reasons, you need to be in the right environment. It has to just be done right.
Right.
For its full potential, I think, to heal or to change or to transform somebody, and also to prevent some of the negative side effects, because they can be severe. You can have serious psychological trauma from bad experiences.
Right.
So I think they're plants. I think they're plant medicines, just like some of these, all of them in different ways. And my experiences were great and hard and informative. And
what was your experience with, if you don't mind?
I actually, so on that retreat that I mentioned many years ago, I had 6 ceremonies. So it was San Pedro and ayahuasca. San Pedro is a cactus, and then the ayahuasca. So it was a long experience with lots of different journeys with 2 different. There was an ayahuasquero and then a huachumero. Huachuma is the San Pedro.
Okay.
And mind-blowing, like hard and amazing and scary and you know, deep.
What was the difference between San Pedro and ayahuasca with those experiences?
The San Pedro for me was, I was off journeying for about 15 hours the first time with the San Pedro. So
oh my gosh.
It was a very long time.
Yeah.
And it was really hard the whole time. And
is it similar to the ayahuasca where it shows you things in your life that you need to be better at or improve on, that kind of thing?
It can. It's different for different people in different environments, you know, so like ayahuasca for me was not particularly visual. It can depend on the plants that they're mixing in the brew, whether or not it's visual or not too. San Pedro tends to be a little bit more of a hard opening. Hi, what do you think about San Pedro?
She's like, tell me more.
That's fine. You hang out right here.
Sorry.
It tends to be a little bit more of like a heart, body. You're sort of in rather than out. You know, I was in and gone. Just not, you know, there was no body anymore.
Wow.
So I did have that experience of just sort of not existing anymore. And then I have talked to many people who have had, like, I've traveled through my body and sort of seen the places where I need to work or realized what I need to change. I think we are shown what we need to be shown, and it's, for some people it's in visions, and some people it's traveling through your body, and some people it's traveling time, and sometimes it's literal, and sometimes it's archetypal and conceptual, and you know, it was fascinating and hard. And then afterward, I swore I was done. I would never like go through that experience again. And then, you know, of course, several days later for the next San Pedro ceremony, I was like, okay, yes,
here we go again.
I'm here to do this. So super, super hard, but but
was it worthwhile?
Yes, of course, Even just to know, I mean, for me, it was years in the making. I knew it was something that I was going to want to experience, and I knew I wanted to go to Peru and be with somebody who, you know, practiced it was this whole lineage, just every father back, you know, the ayahuasquero, and then, but very little desire to have the experience again. I'm sure I will, but I don't. For me, at least, I don't think it's something that I need to have every week or every month. But I have, you know, somebody who I respect enormously. You know, he drinks ayahuasca, I think, almost every week, and has for like a decade.
Oh my gosh!
And he's incredible, and I consider him, you know, a sort of mentor figure and a fabulous human, and it's a different practice for him.
Right.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So what was like your takeaway from it? You don't have to go into like specifics, but what, like, you know, did you come to an epiphany? Was there like a big realization that you came away with? Was it about the plants, about life?
I'm, how do I even sum it up? It's a really tough one to answer. I think partly because in that many ceremonies, there were different learnings at different times. But I actually didn't share what was my greatest sort of realization, or what, not even my greatest, but what I felt like the plant told me. I didn't share it with the group because I felt like it would diminish their sort of experience. And I talked to Wachimero about it later, and it was really along the lines of, you know, we're all fairly silly, and this pursuit is all a bit self-indulgent and frivolous, and and it was very sort of reductive and blunt, and
interesting.
Just sort of
like goosebumps when you said that for some reason. Wow.
It was not unkind, but it was like it was a bit sort of it was some perspective and a reminder that whatever we're all out here dancing about is probably not very important. So sorry.
No, I think that is a great realization to come through, because it is all kind of silly. You know, at the end of the day, everything we're doing is kind of silly, you know, and we shouldn't take it so seriously.
Yeah.
So very cool. So we touched on this a little bit. I know you eat a lot of greens, but what's like a diet in the day of Rachelle Robinett?
So that's pretty easy to answer because it's always the same. In the wintertime, I drink broth, like I'm drinking now, something hot in the morning, and it's a blend of herbs and like miso, and right now I have nutritional yeast. I go through phases, but it's always generally a liquid morning. In the summertime, it'll be green juices until I get to sort of food phase. So I practice intermittent fasting, do that for 16 hours is what I try to do every day. So that means mornings are usually food free for quite a while, so liquids. And then smoothies in the summertime, or I'll do like steamed and baked root vegetables in the summer. So in the wintertime. So I tend to have carbohydrates, low glycemic carbohydrates, and some healthy fats in the mornings, and ease through vegetables midday, which is definitely when I eat the most amount of food, and then most of the fats at night before I go to sleep.
What kind of fats do you eat?
Olive oil, coconut. I've quit avocado recently. Well, not recently. It's been probably close to a year now, just because I'm so bummed on the quality and like sourcing sucks, and it's sort of a problematic food. So they're great, but I avoid them. I don't eat a lot of nuts and seeds. I don't eat grains. So it tends to be like olive oil, coconut, different coconut butters, sometimes small amounts of nuts, but really I can go weeks without them. And then I have them be like raw, sprouted, that sort of thing. And then greens. So, kale and cruciferous veggies, and I prefer to eat raw. So anything I can eat raw, I will. And then if I can't have it raw, like the root vegetables, squashes and yams and pumpkins and stuff, then I'll steam or bake those. And I eat, throughout the day at work, and then the evenings, like I said, kind of switch to almost entirely fats in a low amount. I think the ketogenic diet can be an interesting way to eat, but I don't like to push the fat as high as that diet prefers. But I just find that that's nice for my brain during sleep to have that good healthy fat before we go for 16 hours again without food. But vegetables, like 90% vegetables. Fats, and then great, fruit or squashes and root veggies and stuff for carbohydrate.
Nice. What's like your personal wellness ritual that keeps you in alignment every day? Do you do yoga? Do you meditate? What do you do?
I have to work out. I have to, and I mean, running is my absolute favorite. The cold is really hard for me, so when it's cold like this.
Oh, you run outside.
Well, I don't when it gets to be this cold. So I just feel like all winter long I'm just like biding my time until I can run outside again. But running, I love to bike, but I will go to just the gym, honestly, and have a great workout every single day. If I can. I do also absolutely adore yoga. It is such a happy place for me, and I go through phases where I'm practicing every day. If I go on vacation by myself, which I do a lot, then I'll practice 2 or 3 times a day. Like really just, I think I could practice yoga all day long and be happy.
It's like changed my life.
It's amazing.
Awesome.
So, and that like today I had a great workout and I'm like, I'm good all day. It doesn't matter what happens. So that's absolutely that, and sleep. Those are super important for me. I don't work late anymore. I mean, I work late, but if it's like bedtime, then I just quit because sleep is just too important.
How many hours do you get?
I prefer 8. If I'm on vacation, I'll sleep more.
Totally.
If I'm really like
I'm a sleeper too, so I feel you.
I like 8 as a minimum.
Same. I'm like dead to the world once I'm out.
That's great.
How do you see the state of the world going in terms of what you do? and the plant world and people getting immersed in, herbs and herbalism and all of that. How do you see the state of the world going, and how do you plan to contribute to it?
Yeah. Well, I feel like if the last 5 years showed us anything, it's that we have no idea what the next 5 will look like. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I hope that it is greater adoption of plants as a diet foundation, plants as medicine, and the natural world as, or not just nature, as a source of health. So seeing light when we should see light, smelling fresh air, being in fresh air, being outside. Oh my God, we spend so much time inside. Getting away from screens. But I think, so hopefully we continue to move in that direction, and that also that results in some protection of that environment. And more specific to where I hope to be in it is in continuing to blend food and medicine, so in the functional food space, because I think that's the place where it's the most accessible for people.
Right.
We all eat every day. Well, most of us eat every day, and those are some of the most important decisions that we make for our health by far.
Right.
I don't even want to give you an herbal tea if we can start with like what you're having for breakfast, because if you don't need the herbal tea, then that's my job is then it's really done, and that's my preference. So to be able to be in the space where people are really treating their food, their diet as a practice, and that it's a sort of functional, or seen as a functional diet, I think that's where we can reach lots of people, improve lots of lives, open a lot of eyes, and create a lot of health. So
great. I always enjoy asking people this question. How do you measure success? Do you consider yourself to be a successful person today, and how do you measure that?
I want to see all the other answers too. I wish I could just have them. I think I measure success based on, am I happy? That's all I've ever really wanted is to be, truly happy, and how we can also choose to be happy based on where we set our sort of requirements for being happy.
Right.
So I think mine are set pretty low, which is nice. Like if I'm content, if things are fine, then I'm really happy. But to be honest, to be able to live simply, and for that to be comfortable, and to be doing work that I find enjoyable, and to be improving other people's lives, and to be healthy. I'm grateful that I can, run and practice yoga. I try to maintain the mindset that that's enough.
Right.
It's really fun to be entrepreneurial and to push for growth and to launch a new product and to, work more, and it's all so exciting, especially now in the wellness space in New York. But I try to maintain that sort of, humility and contentment with, this is enough, this is success, and more is like icing on the cake. So I would say yes, I do consider myself successful. I am happy. And even though I am, leaning into that, I do try to live with the consistent. This is enough.
Awesome. It's a beautiful answer. And to wrap things up, what is a valuable piece of advice that you'd like to share with other entrepreneurs who are building conscious businesses today?
I would say, I would hope that that people really, I think I personally appreciate, and this would probably be different advice from someone else, but I really appreciate seeing people who are doing something that comes very truly and naturally to them, that they really believe in and they really care about, and that other people are also getting some good from, and that growing into a product or a business or a service or a category or a niche or whatever it is, as opposed to kind of standing back and saying, I see, you know, this opportunity in the market, and I'm going to go in and try to capture that opportunity. And there's nothing necessarily, you know, wrong with that. I like, and I think there's some longevity and a lot of personal satisfaction that comes from the sort of complete sincerity of, this is the thing that I know or I'm about, or, you know, have dedicated my life to, or whatever it is, and other people sort of enforce the fact that there's a need or a want, or that there's an exchange that can happen, that's a good exchange on both sides, and that becomes that exchange scales, and that's sort of business. So I guess to sum that up, it would be, you know, really consider what you're good at, what you care about, what you love. Sometimes just the path of finding what you love is half a life or more, you know, and it can be really worth it, as opposed to sort of saying, I choose to be this, and putting yourself in that box and then trying to make a career out of that box. That can totally work. It can also combust. So I hope that's good advice.
No, that's great advice. I think that's also very timely for me personally too, because you're absolutely right. I think that when you give yourself a label and you try to make a career out of it, which I have done really all my life, you know, you're always going to kind of be seeking, you know, from an internal perspective. Versus when you do it the opposite way around, where you're like, oh, let's go inside and like really introspect on what I'm good at and what I want to learn about and what really fulfills me, and not think about, you know, making a salary or an X amount of dollars a year, and you can let that wait for a little bit. Everything else kind of, you know, falls into place, I think. And
you put that perfectly.
You said it, but so that was great advice, and thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
This was great.
Super fun.
Yeah.